One final graph. R equals 42 over 2 minus 5 sine theta. If I divided everything by 2, this would be 5 halves. An eccentricity of 5 halves gives me a hyperbola. It's nice to be prepared. I draw my crosshairs. I label one of them, pointing to the right, theta equals 0. I have sine on the bottom. Sine goes 0, 1, 0, -1, returning to 0. In the 0 direction, I have 42 over 2, which is 21. In this direction, I have 42 over 2 minus 5, that's 42 over -3, which is minus 14. In the -1 direction, I have 42 over 2 minus a -5, that's 42 over 7, which is 6. Once again, I like knowing these dimensions so I know how large to graph it. Also, since it's a hyperbola, I expect it to be spreading outward. So I want to give myself some extra room. With 21, why don't we say 10, 20, 10, 20, 10, and 10, 20. 21 is going to be just over here, just past. Minus 14, looking in this direction, going back in the other direction, is going to be there. 6 is going to be perhaps there. The difference between 6 and 14 is 8. Half of 8 is 4, so from the 6 I add 4, or from the 14 I subtract 4. In either case, my center is going to be, if I wrote it in Cartesian coordinates, at the point 0, minus 10. I like drawing another line of symmetry here. I expect these 3 points to connect. I expect the other wing to come along here. To get something that looks better, I'd like to get a couple of ghost points. Instead of going over this far and up from the center, I can go over this far and down from the center. So that would be, let's see, instead of going 10 in this direction, I'd go in 10 in this direction. So I should have a point here and another point roughly here. Now these 3 dots are going to connect. These 3 dots are going to connect. In order to find out the correct angle, I would have to solve the denominator for 0, and that would require a calculator. A rough sketch is all I'm interested in. So what I want you to do is to try to barely miss those points. So for example, here you're going through those points. If I rotate just a little bit more, then I want a dotted line to come along here. It's now going through the center, but it's just missing those points. Likewise, instead of going through the center, through those points, I want to just miss. So I want a line which looks something like this. And those will be my asymptotes. Now I'm going to draw coming in along that ghostly asymptotic line, connecting all 3 dots and heading back out. So I come in skimming along that line, I go through all 3 points, and I head back out. As for dimensions, the pole is always one of your foci. So the distance from the pole to the center is going to be 10 units. So C is going to be 10. A is going to be the distance from center to vertex, so A is going to be 4. E is C over A. 10 over 4 is 5 halves, and if I had divided this top and bottom by 2, I would have had a 1 minus 5 halves sine theta. That was going to be my E. It's harder to pick out where B is on this graph, but I can solve for it algebraically. Once again, I just recall that C squared is A squared minus B squared, so B is the square root of A squared minus C squared, so B is going to be the square root my apologies. For a hyperbola, C squared is A squared plus B squared. So B squared is C squared minus A squared. And in this case, B is going to be the square root of 100 minus 16. That is the square root of 84, which you could have written as 2 root 21.